Now, conservators have spent the last year restoring one of the art world's greatest works.
The 17th century masterpiece, The Crossing of the Red Sea by Nicolas Poussin, is going back on display at the National Gallery of Victoria. Kirsten Vaness reports.
Well, it's been nearly 2 years since one of the most prized paintings at the NGV has been on display. Behind these curtains is the 17th century masterpiece, The Crossing of the Red Sea by Nicolas Poussin. It's gone through a lengthy process of restoration and finally it's ready to be shown. Joining me now is the director of the art gallery, Dr. Jared Vaughan, and the man who restored the work, Carl Villas. Now, Dr. Jared, can you give us a look? I understand the official opening's not till later this morning, but can we have a sneak peek?
Look, it's a bit of a dilemma for us, of course, because there will be the grand unveiling. What about if we do just that? Let's have a sneak peek and we'll show you part of the painting. How about that? And we can talk about some of the issues.
All right, you drive a hard bargain.
Here we go.
Tell me why this is such an important painting.
Well, this really is one of the great masterpieces by Poussin, who lived, although he was French, he lived and worked in Rome for most of his career, and this is right at the top of the masterpieces that he produced in his life. So it's a work of international significance, there's no question about that, and it's always been one of the most admired pictures in our collection. It has an interesting history. I'll give it to you very briefly. Painted in Rome in the 1630s, it went to Turin in northern Italy, it then ends up in a Parisian collection in the early 18th century, but in the 18th century the British had all the money. Suddenly a rich English aristocrat buys it. It's got this magnificent French frame on it by then. It goes to England. It's in an aristocratic collection in Longford Castle for a couple of hundred years, and after the Second World War it's sold, and the Felton bequest, which has bought so many of our great masterpieces, had the cash in 1948. It was acquired for Melbourne and has been here ever since. But we've always known it needed a new restoration project, and that's where Carl comes in.
Great. So, Carl, can you tell us what's changed? Why did this have to be restored in the first place?
Well, paintings change on their own accord over hundreds of years, either through changes that occur in the pigments in the paint, or also because of damage that occurs occasionally to paintings, sometimes through overcleaning, for example. In the case of our painting, it had suffered a little bit of overcleaning in the past, and so there were a couple of areas of the picture where some of the critical details were lost, and I'm referring in particular to the clouds in the sky, to the mountains, the trees in the landscape, and to one or two figures throughout the composition. So a lot of my work was really about trying to reinstate some of those lost details. And we were given a huge advantage, really, because just before the treatment commenced in 2009, we received news that a replica of the painting, which was made very soon after the original, which had been missing since 1773, had suddenly turned up. And this replica is a full-scale replica, very high quality, and it's in very good condition in the areas where ours was suffering a little bit. So I was able to use this replica to put back some of those missing details.
Now, I understand there have been some significant changes, that some of the faces have even been changed. Can you point them out for us?
Well, there's one in particular, and that's this figure here. All we see really is the back of the head there and the pair of ears. We know originally, in fact, as we saw it before the conservation treatment, that head was actually turned around the other way, looking out to the viewer. There was a face. And it always looked a little bit odd, when I cleaned the picture, I was actually convinced beforehand that it would be restorer's paint and that it would come off as I cleaned the picture. But it stayed there, and when we examined it, it was clearly the work of Poussin. But what turns out to have happened was that he did originally paint the face, but then he decided he didn't like it and covered it up. The replica, as we saw, had the face turned around the other way, as did an engraving and a tapestry that were also made. So we knew that this head was actually supposed to be turned around the other way. So that's what I've done. Using the information from the other copy, I was able to put back the original head as Poussin left it.
Now, I have to ask, what happens if you made a mistake?
Well, all the materials we use are removable. So if we make a mistake, they can be removed in a second and corrected. So that's one of the good things about modern conservation.
That's very much a relief. I also want to quickly ask you, Jared, how much is this painting worth? Can you explain that, or is that a big secret?
Well, it is a secret in that we have an agreement with our insurers, the Victorian Government Insurance Agency, that we do not reveal the values of individual works. Let me say this, without question, it is one of the most valuable paintings in Australia. It's hugely valuable, but I'm not permitted to give you the insurance valuation. I'm sorry about that.
It's priceless, that's why.
It's priceless, and if anything were to happen to this, we could never have one again. So we have to look after it.
Well, thank you very much for the sneak peek. That is, of course, the crossing of the Red Sea. All will be revealed this morning, I believe, at 10:30 a.m.